Karl Rove is with us, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff and a Fox News contributor. Karl, I suppose you have to be wondering what sort of horse trading was done in between the votes here.
Well, I'm more interested in the horse trading that went on beforehand, because my understanding is that yesterday, late in the day, late in the afternoon or into the evening, McCarthy made two concessions on the motion to vacate, where he had offered to allow such motions to take place if 5 members supported it. The Freedom Caucus people wanted one. He conceded it. They also wanted a special committee, church-style committee, to investigate the weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, and he agreed to let that happen. But what's interesting is after that, they moved the goalpost. Suddenly they wanted to have Scott Perry made chairman of the committee, and for Perry to be able to designate who the committee members were. No speaker has that authority. That has to be done by the Committee on Committees. In addition, they wanted Freedom Caucus members to be able to designate what committees they wanted to serve on, and then the Freedom Caucus wanted to give the speaker a list of subcommittee chairs that they would be able to designate the chairman for, which again is, no group in the House gets to be able to do that. The Black Caucus doesn't get it. The Veterans Committee, nobody gets to be able to do that. That's done by the Committee on Committees. So they constantly are moving the goalposts. They're clearly, they wanted to set up a new entity. There are specific rules on how you go about putting the House of Representatives on record to engage in outside litigation. They wanted to be able to have a separate committee that they would control that would have that authority in and to itself. So these are extraordinary demands by the Freedom Caucus, and both for personal power, Scott Perry to be the chairman of this high-profile committee, Freedom Caucus members to be able to designate what committees they served on and so forth. It's a pretty extraordinary list, and what was interesting was after McCarthy had conceded on their 2 big issues, they came up with a whole bunch of other demands.
So, Karl, we are watching this vote take place, and the others have just jumped to 7. We assume that the Democrats are hanging tough on Jeffries and remain unanimous. So those others we would expect are all from the Republican side, which means that McCarthy loses on the second ballot. So where do you go from here?
Well, I think you keep voting, and you keep, at some point they got to step forward and say, this is what we want. Well, they've stepped forward and said what they want, and that they're not going to get it from McCarthy. And my sense is, even if McCarthy were to withdraw, that the rank-and-file Republicans are unlikely to be for any of these changes and are likely to withdraw some of the concessions that they've already made to the Freedom Caucus.
I think this alliance, this Jim Jordan, Kevin McCarthy alliance is going to be interesting to see if it pays off, because we know things changed a couple years ago and that alliance was formed. And obviously that was a big speech that Jim Jordan made on the House floor just a moment ago, Karl.
Yeah, and look, one of the reasons may have been is that last night the Freedom Caucus said we want to take one of his major responsibilities, something that he has talked about for months and months and months, an investigation of the activities of the Department of Justice and the FBI, and they wanted to strip it away from him and his committee and give it to a committee that would be chaired not only by Scott Perry, but that Perry would designate the committee members. Yeah. As the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the incoming chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan does not have the authority to designate who his committee members are. Those are designated by the Committee on Committees, and yet they wanted to strip an important part of his jurisdiction away and then decide, to name one of their own to be chairman of it, and then be able to decide who was going to sit on that select committee.
So, Karl, game this out for us. If they keep voting and McCarthy never reaches the magic number, whether that be 218 or something less than that, depending on whether or not some people start to drop out through attrition, then you got to say, okay, well, this is never going to happen. So where do you go from there? Who could you bring forward as a potential consensus candidate to become Speaker?
Well, first of all, you have to have McCarthy agree to toss in the towel, because the OK group, the only Kevin group, are going to stay with him until the cows come home. He's going to have to release him. So the first step is he has to come to a place where he says, I'm throwing in the towel. And then second of all, then becomes, if that were to happen, then there'd have to be discussions about who that person is. And remember, everybody now, what the Freedom Caucus, if they were able to achieve that, would bring about is countervailing pressure from others. Other elements of the House Republican caucus would say, well, if they were able to get that, then we're going to come forward with our set of demands. particularly if they're able to get somebody who agrees that they will do things like allow Freedom Caucus members to designate what committees they serve on and so forth. There are going to be other demands from other groups of the House Republicans. This is an utter unmitigated disaster. Chaos tends to bring about chaos until it no longer brings about chaos. We're a long way from the point at which chaos stops bringing around more chaos.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.